Good morning. It is Friday up in here at the Captain's Chat. My name is Joe Delagrave. I'm one of the captains at USAWR. And today I'm joined by Jeff Butler and Chuck Aoki. These guys know how to talk, so we're just going to bring them right in and rock and roll here. What's up, guys?
Greetings.
Hey, Joe.
Greetings.
Well, I usually say greetings and salutations, but it's kind of a Friday. It's less of a formal day. So
casual Friday.
Yeah.
Everyone's wearing jeans in the office. Nope, there's no offices going on. There's no jeans in the office. Not at all.
You go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt. That'll be
not at all. Yeah. Hey, as always, bring your questions, your comments. Hang out with us. Check out Jeff and Chuck on Instagram. Or a slightly angrier Chuck on Twitter.
I mean, my Twitter is not agitated, but there's more commentary. Whereas my Instagram at this point is basically just my puppy, which I have something for everybody, right? I offer something for all audiences. So just come join me on every platform, and you'll get something you want, I'm sure, at some point.
If you tune into usually Chuck's profile during a USA competition, we will be throwing out hot fire content.
Hot takes?
No, well.
Oh, just hot fire. Yeah, like behind the scenes, Jeff and Chuck behind the scenes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they're pretty good at it. I'm not gonna lie.
We're basically professional Instagrammers at this point. So what can I say?
Yeah. Been out of practice for a little bit. I mean,
yeah, I'm getting a little one-track pony with like just the puppy, but like it's hard not to when you have a really adorable puppy not to talk and post about your puppy all the time. But I'll have to branch out. I'd be happy to take some suggestions as to the ways in which I could branch out my Instagram content, since I know that's a high priority for most people these days is Chuck Aoki's Instagram. So
especially Chuck Aoki's puppies on Instagram is definitely up there for sure. Has Winnie? Here's a hot take question. Has Winnie? How many new followers do you have because of Winnie puppy posts?
It's a good question. I don't know. I should really track that better. I'll have to
come on.
I'll talk to my team about that and see where we're at numbers wise. I mean, there's a steady little upcrease certainly when you put out content and you do a bunch of like, hey, fellow dog lovers, come look at my adorable dog, and everybody goes, oh my gosh, your dog is adorable. Like there certainly is a correlation there, but I haven't tracked it mathematically. So sorry. I'll talk to you about this.
I hope you build on the spreadsheet, Chuck.
Yes.
Build it up. Yep.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Well, let's dive into some fun content here.
I don't think this has been riveting so far. I think this is what the people want.
This is what the people want. Yeah, on Friday. All right. Well, we want to talk a little bit. There's a couple of topics I think we want to address, but the first one is I believe there was a meeting that talked about the USQRA changing from the U.S. Quad Rugby Association to the U.S. Wheelchair Rugby Association. This is a big deal for some people. Like it's a really big deal on there's kind of like two ends of the spectrum. I think most people probably are taking a side. There's not a whole lot of people in the middle. But maybe we just want to talk to you guys a little bit about that. Jeff, I don't know if you want to go first.
Yeah, I think the name change is reflective of the way our sport has moved over the last 20 years in general, right? We've gone from a sport that was made by quads for quads to something that has become more inclusive to a lot of disabilities, right? And I support it, right? I think it makes sense. I think it clarifies what we are and who we do, or who we are and what we do. It's Friday. And so I think it's a positive move and something we need that is honestly, I think, long overdue.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I would just second Jeff's notion. I think part of the reason which the name change would happen is what we're trying to do is, of course, stay in alignment with the IWRF, which is International Wheelchair Rugby Federation. I'm sorry. And so part of it is the sport is called wheelchair rugby. And to Jeff's point, as sports change and evolve over time, things are always different. Back when this sport was invented, not everyone was a was a spinal cord injury quad. Things like polio were more common, or post-polio, I will admit, not knowing exactly what it is. There's always been involvement of athletes who have not been simply quads. And so I think this is just a sort of a recognition of that on a broader level. Like, this sport is something that welcomes all people with, eligible impairments, like any sport, right? You still have to qualify for wheelchair rugby. It's not like this name change suddenly says, okay, we're letting anyone who wants to play in. No, you still have to qualify for the sport, but it's simply sort of a recognition that what we're doing is it is inclusive to the degree it's able to be within the boundaries or parameters we've set.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you bring up. With it doesn't really change anything as far as the function of the game, or who's coming in and playing, or what disabilities can play. It honestly makes it a little bit more, has a little bit more clarity with the name. Quad rugby, back in the day, they just wanted to get a recreational sport to play, and then it ended up elevating. Obviously, it was called murder ball for a while in the States, and that changed very quickly. And people didn't want to change from murder ball to quad rugby. Like, they were like, I don't want to play, and then they changed it from, the world changed it from quad rugby, and they took wheelchair rugby pretty much right away. And we've been kind of lacking in the U.S. And I think a lot of times quad rugby, people don't know what that is. Like, the mainstream media or the mainstream fan, or whoever, what's quad rugby? Have you guys gotten those questions before? Like, what do you mean quad rugby? I don't really say quad rugby ever, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I literally can't remember the last time that I told, when I was explaining the sport that I play, that I said it was called quad rugby. It's been probably 10 years since I've said that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be fair, when you say wheelchair rugby, most people say, oh, what's that? But there certainly is a sort of excitement and intrigue. Wow, that sounds interesting. Tell me about it. I think our sport requires a certain amount of explanation as a result of what it is, because it's a very unique individual sport. It's wheelchair rugby. It's not something else. But to Jeff, and then to your question, Joe, I personally don't really refer to it. I don't know many people who play in the United States Quad Rugby Association who refer to it as quad rugby. I don't think many of us do that. I don't think even those who might. I would be surprised to learn that those who play it, if there's a substantial amount of people who play who actually do use the name and would like to keep the name. I would be surprised to hear that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'd be curious on maybe the comments if you want, if you go for wheelchair rugby to quad rugby. I think a lot of people in the league, as far as the board goes, it was pretty unanimous. Like, let's make this change. Obviously, there's some branding stuff that you got to change, but I mean, it's time, and it's important, I think, just for streamlining with every other Paralympic sport. Is if there's a wheelchair involved, it's called wheelchair basketball, wheelchair tennis, wheelchair rugby. It's not, wheelchair racing. It's not that difficult, I guess. But do you think that there's, I don't know, I've talked to a few people on this show about, and they've played in the past, like Bill Rengie was, played in the 90s, and, we've had some coaches that have played in the 90s, and it's not I don't think it's ever a discredit to what they did, or we're moving from our roots or whatever it is. It's I think it's the evolution of the sport. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but.
Yeah, I think I can take that quick. I think that I personally, if anyone knows me, I love history. I love studying history. I love seeing where things came from. I like following the roots of these things. Jeff has heard many long, interesting, wow, Jeff, did you read about this? All these things. Anyway, so people know about that. I think Mason's right. I think it does help with fundraising.
Yeah.
But I think that I personally really love learning about the history of the sport. I like it. Gumby periodically, James Gumber, the head coach of the U.S. national team, will post old school videos, and it's a different game, but it's fun to see that, right? It's fun to see where the sport came from, and I think it's important we don't lose that. I think that's critically important. That's how it evolved from. The IPC has a new documentary coming out that's about the history of the Paralympic Games. I think that kind of stuff is awesome and important to remember, but it's important to remember that history in addition to advancing into the future. Can we do a better job of remembering our history in the U.S.? Probably. We really probably can. I think we absolutely can. Yeah. We have the Hall of Fame. I think there's more we could do, but that doesn't mean we should. We can push and chew gum. We'll say. We can remember our history. We can work on our history while in addition, pushing forward and advancing and coming up with new and better and creative ways to do things as the sport evolves. Because the sport, and I think anyone would say, the sport is different today in 2020 than it was in 1996, let's say. It just is. And that's fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are your thoughts on, like, specifically getting a little bit more in tune with our history and cherishing it a little bit more? And what's that mean as far as growing the sport in the U.S.? Does that go hand in hand?
Yeah, I mean, right. They shouldn't be at odds with each other. I think that we can understand where the sport came from, understand why it came to be, right? Which history lesson it was, because there's no other kind of sport that quads can excel at, and so we started our own, right? And the story of how it started is absolutely insane and incredible, right? It's like, I don't know, like, let's do this and let's. We'll have to dribble. How often? I don't know, like 10 seconds. Sounds good, right? Like the idea that these guys just got together and said, let's make up some crazy game where we're going to run into each other is great. But on the point of, growing the sport, like I mentioned, they shouldn't be at odds with each other. We can do both. We can be inclusive and make the sport more exciting and fast and physical. Those are both good things that we can push forward at the same time.
Yeah, just to pick up on that, I think too, what Jeff's saying is right on. You can tell a really rich history of the sport, of any sport, basketball, football, hockey, but no one wants to watch a football game from the 1930s. It's that's not super entertaining to watch, but you can tell really rich stories of the history, how it came to be, the way it evolved. Like Jeff said, Duncan Campbell and his crew up in Canada just were like, hey, we got to come up with something. And they came up with a really amazing sport. They came with a really amazing core of a sport, and we've been tweaking it ever since, but they came up with a really amazing thing. And like Jeff is saying, you can tell that history, and that gets people really engaged. Wow, this is an amazing thing. I think a lot of people don't understand the history of wheelchair rugby when we're talking about outside people. I think people in the sport know pretty well, but I don't think it's pretty aware. Like, this was a sport created so people could be inclusive. It's the ultimate inclusive sport in a lot of ways with regards to that. So I think that's important to tell. And then, as Jeff's point, we can then at the same time be showing our sport on high level medias. We can be on NBC. We can be doing all kinds of exciting things to demonstrate. And now this is an exciting, fast paced sport you want to watch, just like any other elite level sport today. But I think there's that disconnect is becoming like it's tricky. It sometimes seems like it's impossible to do both, but it's not by a long shot. It really isn't.
So what do we like? What do we like for names? So currently USQRA, right?
USQRA.
So USWRA.
Yeah, if you're going for, like, if you have to switch the W out of all the Qs, do you just switch up the entire USQRA and go to like USWRL, United States Wheelchair, or USWR? Yeah. Or, yeah.
I mean, Jeff, do you have something you're in mind? Because I personally don't have anything aside.
I'm in my head going to know that if it becomes USWRA and we also play for USAWR, that's gonna be awful. Because I'm just gonna mix up.
It's not great, but most people don't play for both, so I think it would be okay. I think we can handle manipulating that vowel back and forth. It's a lot of brain power for us, which, I mean, I know we're not the brightest bulbs in this room, but
I like those. Let's change it to league at the end. Why not?
I think USWR. I think you need the L or the
USWR is like United States Wheelchair Rugby, which is a nice sound, but the problem is the association is something. It's not just wheelchair rugby. But I think yes, put it back up again. I like USWR. Like, I like that as a
take a first spin. Daniel, got anything else? PC in the house.
But no, I mean, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a fun thing to throw out to the membership and see if there's a name that that we might not be thinking of that could be really good. Send it to my Instagram so I can have something else to post on there.
No, we got your Twitter on there now.
Here's a hot take. How many
Take.
how many tournaments have we been to that include Canadian teams?
Joe, you need like a sounder for that. You need like a sounder for like hot take, like wow, 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 like a siren or something.
So
anyway, I see where you're going.
North American Wheelchair Rugby League.
I kind of like association. I don't know why. But
North American Wheelchair Rugby
Association is probably better though, right? Major League Baseball, National Hockey League.
Can we get something that's 3 letters? We can't though. It has to be at least 4 letters.
WRL, but you'd have to Wheelchair Rugby League. But I think that's actually a thing. Like because in able-bodied rugby league is something. Rugby union is something. I believe. If there's anyone out there who knows this better than I, please comment and correct me. Yeah. But I believe rugby league is a thing. It'd be tough to get it to 3 letters. You'd have to do like
WRA.
You'd have to do like UWL, which would be weird. Like you'd have to abbreviate US into 1 letter. It just
Narrow. What up? We're off
Narrow.
I feel like it's a New Orleans like.
Well, maybe that would be the Narwhal League and just call it that point.
Yeah, Narwhal.
Narwhal. North American Wheelchair Rugby League. I kind of like that. Jeff, I really like the idea of being inclusive of the Canadians because you're right. Canadian teams come to our tournaments all the time. Like we really exchange back and forth. In fact, I think you can make a strong case. We should consider, and this is just me totally off the top of my head, we should consider doing like some type of a continental championship. Would you call it, I guess, right? Continental championship.
Yeah.
Hey, important factor here. DC bringing the hard to find a good URL handle with only 3 or 4 letters.
That's inside baseball right there. That's solid.
Yeah, that's insight right there.
Yeah.
DC in the house.
That should be you. You should know that.
He just got his MBA. I'm a few steps behind him.
What's the SEO options though on 3 letters? I feel like that's going to be way easier. Just saying.
SEO is huge. It's huge. Well, and then saying it. Yeah, I love watching the NBA. I love watching the NAWRL. That's not that bad.
I think it's helpful if you can say. I mean, here's the other thing: USWRA is just not that hard to say. But I do think this is a good opportunity to revisit this. So we shouldn't just say it's absolutely going to be one thing. But I think you'd be surprised. Those 5 letters aren't that hard to say, right?
They're not.
You tell me.
But if you're not trying to rearrange it or mess around a little bit, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Yeah. All right. Are we going to move? This is like the 4th question on here, but I think we need to talk about it now and for a little continuity. The sport, and I think this is something that everybody talks about that plays wheelchair rugby. The sport as a rehabilitative, a recreational, and a professional sport. It's all of those things. It used to probably only be rehabilitative and recreational. And then obviously once it became a Paralympic sport and the demos in 96 and then 2000, like it's grown. And now it's to the point, and we've talked about this as athletes playing both leagues. Like it's tough to do this both. Like it's tough to play in the USQRA and USAWR because the international season ends up being 8 months. 9 months sometimes. So like it's kind of insane what we put our bodies through. What are your thoughts on how those coexist? Because they need to, but I think there needs to be a little bit of separation. What are your thoughts?
Well, I can start kind of overarching, and Jeff at any point jump in. But I think that you put it well, right? At its core. At its core, wheelchair rugby was invented, as we were discussing earlier, as a sport for quads, people with, disability in all forms, to have a sport they can compete in, right? Our sport is really simple when you think about it. You have to be able to catch a ball and throw a ball and push a wheelchair. That's basically it. At its core, that's all you have to be able to do, right? At its very core. And so our sport is intended for people like that. And so the heart of our sport, really, when you think about it, is that more rehabilitative, recreational aspect. I think, Joe, you remember Ken Walsh, who passed away a few years ago. I always tell the story of Ken Walsh, a fellow who I think he broke his neck when he was 18 or 19, super young, never had seen adaptive sports. And he showed up to play rugby. I think by the time he was like 50, And it transformed his life. It totally transformed his life. He was more active. He was using an everyday chair instead of a power chair, which isn't a shot at power chairs. He was able to do these things he'd never really do. He got to travel. He got to, play in the national championship game. Like, it's really this incredible sort of thing that it can give that to people. And he's always the example I tend to go with.
Yeah.
When people ask for what can this sport do for people, because that's what it can do at its core, really. So I think that we can't lose that element of it, right? We can't lose that aspect of our sport. But kind of as to our earlier discussion, we can do both things. We can have a robust recreational league for anyone who wants to play the sport, and have an elite, and have a pathway, I should say, to elite competition which you can try to get to. Not everyone will get to it. That's just the reality of elite level sport. But you have a pathway, and you have an ability to do so if you so desire to. And you don't have to be beholden to the recreational aims of others, which are perfectly valid. But you have a person with a disability, particularly when it qualifies for wheelchair rugby, has just as much a right, in my opinion, to play recreational sport as they do to try to be an elite level athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, Chuck. And to your point about the rehabilitative aspect of it, every time that I'm introduced to a new quad, and Joe, I don't know if you might do something similar to this, I always try, like, the first question is like, are you plugged into the sports scene yet, right? Whether you're a para and you can play basketball, whether you're a quad, like finding rugby or track or just some sport, because what that does is it gives you an instant community. It plugs you into a group of guys who have been doing what you are now experiencing for the last, collectively, they have like 100 years of experience within any para sport team. And I know for me, when I found rugby, it was a big turning point in my independence, in my drive to, succeed in life. It was, okay, I go from this kid who broke his neck at 13, I found rugby at 15, and it's like, oh, this is how you can be independent. And you have guys telling you, oh, like, you're doing it wrong. Like, why are you, I had a guy tell me, like, oh, socks are hard to get on. Why are you wearing socks? I'm like, that's a great point. I'm never going to wear socks again. Right. And like, it's just little things like being surrounded by a community and being involved in sports just makes you instantly surrounded by that group of people.
Yeah. And it's like, I think we've met a lot of people too, from that rehabilitative side, where they don't really like the sport. Like they never really amount to anything in the sport, but the sport still changes their lives because of, like, that community is so important. I think we all have really good able-bodied friends in our lives that have, like, impacted our lives, whether through mentorship or through peer, just being friends. But it's the community of the disabled people around us that kind of look like us and think like us and might have, like, that is so powerful for your development as an athlete with a disability, or a person with a disability, or a businessman with a disability, like whatever it would be. So I think that's huge. And then the other side of it, I think the other question is, there's this thing where it's kind of like the old man Y game, where they show up and, like, they're not playing elite level basketball at the Y, but they literally are swearing for 2 hours, pissed off because they want to win a game. It's like there's recreational competitiveness, and that's a real thing. So, like, at the D3 level, it's like, I want to win my game. At the D2 level, I want to win my D1, obviously, and internationally. It's more elite level competition, but it doesn't mean that those low levels of rugby aren't competitive or they don't want to win. But there's always this mix between, well, are you recreational? Do you want to just be rehabilitative? So, like, sometimes the wording is a little bit funny there too. So what's the coexistence there, where do there need to be more boundaries in our sport as far as our league goes to be able to offer that?
Yeah, this is a tricky question. It's one I spend a decent amount of time thinking about. Yeah, Kelly's totally right. I mean, that's, as I say, one of the things that always drives me to excel and adapt to sport. Growing up with a disability, not having role models look like me. I want kids with disabilities to be able to have role models they look like. I talk about this all the time. I know people are probably sick of me talking about this, but I want kids with disabilities to look up to be Todd McFadden or Steve Syria or whoever, right? I don't want them to have to, you can look up to LeBron, sure, great. But you should have people who look like you and you can say, I can be like that person. Absolutely. I might not get there, but anyway, I think that's really critical. But to this sort of conversation about how we handle the U.S. career, I think this is one of the greatest challenges because, one league trying to serve everyone from your most introductory athlete who just wants to have fun and just wants to get involved, which again, 100% valid, something we should absolutely be doing, versus also trying to serve players like us who are trying to keep ourselves in the best shape possible so we can go help the country win a gold medal at the Paralympic Games. It's really challenging, right? And I think in some ways it's actually not so hard to do it at the extremes, but it's harder to do in the middle. And when I say that, I mean it's that player who starts playing and is playing on a recreational team and is enjoying it and having fun. And suddenly, like, oh, I want more. I want to try to go for USA. I want to try to do this. And as we know, you don't always have a big window to do that. And so it's figuring out ways that player can then make advances in both, their coaching, their training, learning. We do our best. I think all of us are very open, Joe in particular, are open to bringing new players along to tournaments, helping develop them, teaching them things. But it can be hard to do that without repeated interaction. I mean, like both of you and myself actually included, we've all moved across the country to go play better rugby. That's not there for everyone. And so it's challenging to balance that. I think it's that middle ground of how do we drive those players? How do we give them that pathway that I was talking about to competing at the elite level and to getting the coaching and the information, the knowledge to at least take a shot at it. Because like I said, not everybody's going to make it, but everyone deserves to have a chance to do that to the best of their ability, I think. So that doesn't super answer your question other than to say it's a really difficult thing to manage. I think we do okay with it so far. I think that there's a pretty good recognition that, D1 teams are going to want to play in D1 places. D2 teams are going to want to play at D2 tournaments. There's not a lot of hey, we wanted to go here and then this really good team came and just wiped everybody out. There's not a ton of that. So I think we're okay on that, but it's more figuring out how and where individual players can bounce around. And I think the current rules we've set up actually are quite good for that and that players are allowed to move. Yeah. But that also has its own problems, as we've discussed, right? Because suddenly a team can basically vanish in a year if 4 or 5 of their players decide to leave. Now, I would say the rules we have guidelines that shouldn't have allowed that, but it also sets up this really awkward scenario where a player comes to you and says, hey, I would like to go play for another team. And the person, at that point, it's clear that player does not want to stay there any longer. So what is the coach or rep of that team supposed to say? It's kind of created that dynamic, which I don't blame anyone or the creation of the rule. It's just it's inevitable unless we create some kind of secondary league, which we have a draft for, and we pick the teams, and everyone kind of figures out their own way and stuff like that. Which I would be curious because we've actually talked about that a lot within the U.S. I would love to hear from kind of non-US level guys or guys who haven't quite made the team yet, if you would be interested in doing something like that, and if you would be able to you'd want to make it work, probably a couple tournaments a year. We'd have, high level coaches like Gumby would coach a team, probably Sue, people like Jason Rieger presumably would be involved. I'd love to hear, is that something you'd be interested in trying out? We'd have a couple tournaments and just seeing what it looks like. So anyway.
Let us know in the comments. Jeff, I got a question for you. Because I think what you're saying is there's a Division II, Division I, and then there's elite level league where it's 4 teams drafted. And I think it sets up to where D2, it would be this big, vast deal where people are getting better or introduced to the sport more on the rehabilitative side. And then in D1, it's okay, it's the better version of that like we have now. And then the next one is I want to see how far I can go in the sport. And I want to, if I'm going to spend money on the sport, I'm going to know that I'm going to get really, really, really good competition. And that's what you market to mainstream media. Because we can't, at the end of the day, and I don't want to offend anyone, but it is what it is. And I think you guys would probably back me up on this. The marketability of the sport is at the Paralympic level. At the end of the day, right? D1 Paralympic level, the elite version.
I think that's true of all para sports at this point.
Yeah.
In our country, and I think that's part of what frustrates us. Sorry, I know this was for Jeff, but I couldn't help myself.
Typical.
What frustrates us is our Paralympic sport coverage is so far behind other countries in a lot of ways that we it's getting better, but we're still trying to drive forward to get to those higher levels.
JB.
I think that I think you're kind of right.
Yeah. Okay. My question for Jeff, and then Jeff Garton, we'll get to you, man. My man, Jeff G. So my question, I think, would be, gosh, I might have lost my train of thought. No, I didn't. Here's where it is, because we go back to this. We go back to Team Force, and a lot of people are like, well, why isn't there Team Force? And it comes down to funding. That's why there's not Team Force. If you go back and look at books, as far as league finances go, league couldn't afford it. And who's going to pay for that? And so, right now through USAWR, there's some grant money to be able to do developmental camps that we've done the last couple of years. Obviously, this year is different because of the pandemic, but there's been that. And so right now there's not a good system in place to keep those people, the pipeline kind of coming up, because there's just not the finances for it. I mean, you saw with giving games, the national team needs money right now. The guys that are on the team currently and the program need money. And so there's just not enough in the pie to go around right now. The Team Force idea is a great concept. And I think maybe needs to look at, I know when it was running in the mid 2000s, it was a pay to play type of program, which I think would still be valuable. Because there's a lot of people that would probably pay to play on Team Force. Maybe put that in the comments and see. But Jeff, what are your thoughts on the developmental pipeline of the program?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think I'm the only one of us three who was on Team Force at any point. Is that Joe or you?
No, we went straight to high school to the NBA is what we went.
Fun. Yeah, so development is always a struggle in this kind of environment that we have in the USA. I think something that would be a cool bridge between not having Team Force or not having any kind of development and having something, built in like other countries have would be, I think if you loosened the transfer rules, you would see not the transfer rules, but if you loosened the residency rules, you would see some of these problems start to disappear. Because what happens is, all three of us moved to play higher caliber rugby. That was our version of player development, right? If you move to a team like Phoenix, where Joe went, that is how you become the level of athlete that you need to be to get on to Team USA. It's as useful as things like Team Force are to get noticed by the coaching staff and to understand the system and the requirements and the sacrifices that you need to make to be on that team. It's like when I was on it, I think we had 3 camps that were, maybe a total of 20 days together. And so really the development happens when athletes internally say, I want to be better. What's it take? It takes me getting to a more competitive team.
Yeah, I think what I'll jump into there too with, Joe, this actually kind of goes to you, is, I would guess you would say part of what made you better, though, was being in Phoenix and practicing with Scott Hogsett, Nick Springer, I'm blanking, all those guys.
Shin and Manny and then Jim.
Obi, your guy Obi, my guy Ben.
I didn't get better from playing other teams. I got better from Scott saying, hey, you need to show up 3 days a week, and then you need to lift and do your cross training, and we're gonna do drill. It's not like we show up in scrimmage, drills and sprinting and hill work, and then him saying, hey, you're still fat, you need to get better. There's coaching and mentorship, and Jeff, you get that down in Texas when you guys are getting together for weekend camp, stuff like that. It's not just a couple games and all of a sudden you're better. Brad makes a good point too. Most most pay their own way for travel for the USCRA. So add in elite level rugby and some coaching seems like a good deal. I mean, it's those camps, it's those like you said, consistent like visibility to each other is what is going to make you a better player.
Yeah, it's like a repeated interaction, right? It's like, just doing something a one-off time is going to be hard to learn a lot from a one-off. But if you're able to do it day in, day out, week after week, that's when things start to kind of like, okay, chipping away. I get this, this is one of the biggest challenges we face. And I think ultimately, unfortunately, the answer at this point, until we're able to develop a really robust development program, is players who really want to do it and they want to do all. You've got to find a way to get to a city with higher levels, and guys do that. It's just a sacrifice I personally couldn't ask anyone to make because it's a big sacrifice.
Exactly. And I think here's the other point of this is some of the rules still don't allow it. Like, oh, you don't like your team right now, but you need to be on your team for 3 years to go and play. And like for me, I think everyone knows, like, I didn't get my transfer to go through to Texas, and so I didn't get to like play, and we ended up not having a national championships. Sorry, Denver, but like there's
I got my rings.
There needs to be rules in place to allow the development of athletes to happen if that's what they want to do. So that's, I think, even furthermore why we need to have this like big pool of D2, D1, have the normal rules, and then you have the elite level thing where it's like let's play and get better.
And I think potentially creating this elite higher thing is really what's helpful, because then it allows that player who still is wanting to get better to play with their local team, and they can still, particularly I think of the East Coast a lot. People drive most of those tournaments, so I know it's not free to drive, but it's a little easier to get around. You can still go to tournaments.
Whoa! Hold on! Breaking news from the USCRA. Breaking news. That's what we do on this show. We break news.
Hold on, we got to read the paragraph.
Is someone are we going to read it out loud, or what are we doing?
Listening
here?
And love this discussion, specifically concerning force. We are more than willing to discuss this further, even after this presentation. It's a win-win, and that's what we do here. We love win-win situations.
It's a big compliment to call this a presentation when it's just like Jeff and Joe and I riffing off the
top. I think it's
Get Mike in the green room. Let's get him on.
USQRA players get higher level experience, and USAWR gets better. We want to support this. We're working on formulating the finances. I love the formulating of the finances. Formulate those bad boys. Formulate the dollars. It's not around the corner. Sooner rather than later. And then Chuck French follows it up with some personal responsibility. Can you expand, please?
Can Chuck French learn how to use less than one question mark or exclamation point in any sentence? Wait. Hang on. Has Chuck French come on for a captain's chat yet?
No, he's done it. He came on to make fun of Lee about the silverback and the gorilla.
We may need to ban Chuck French from the comments until Chuck French comes on Captain's Chat. I'm just saying. He hasn't come into the kitchen. Like, don't try to.
Frenchie, here's my thing. If you put your 5 kids on, I'll put my 3 kids and my niece on, and then we'll just leave. It's like an automatic babysitter. It's perfect. They can just stare at each other for 45 minutes while we take a nap.
All right, Joe, we've talked about all this important stuff. Let's do the fun stuff. What do you got?
Okay. So Chuck Aoki and Jeff Butler have been roommates at USAWR since 2016. 17.
Seems like longer than that.
It feels like
but his hair does look really good.
His hair. He's got to show off his hair. Show off your hair.
Yeah, take the hat off.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can do that.
That's what I'm talking about. It's nice.
Not good.
Yeah, maybe a little conditioner. Yeah. There we go.
I've never had long hair. I don't know how to make it look good yet. Jake Daly, please comment how I can look good with long hair.
Okay, so they've been roommates for a while.
Comment for Jeff Butler's hair care.
We have not heard back from Frenchie yet, but I'm sure we will after this game. Okay, here we go. So we've got the first ever roommate competition on the show. We call it the Roommate Do You Know Me Better game. Okay.
It's like
Fighter.
All right. So We have got. I'm only going to do 5 questions for the sake of time. All right, 5 questions. They do not know these questions. They have not been asked beforehand. Jeff, I'm going to ask you. You have to tell me what you think Chuck's answer would be, and he's going to tell you if you're right or wrong. You have to. Well, full honesty here. Full honesty. If he gets it right, he gets it right. Okay.
You want me to type it down on my phone real quick? Like just do a little note.
Ooh, do you want to do that?
I don't have to. I'm just asking.
No.
Let's go honor system.
Okay. Honor system. Here we go. All right, Jeff. First question. Number 1, Jeff. What is Chuck Aoki's favorite TV show of all time?
Ooh, The Office.
That is
Go ahead, hit that ding, 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 ding. That is correct.
That's 1 point. 1 point for Jeff. Chuck Aoki, what is Jeff Butler's favorite TV show of all time?
Oh man, this is so awkward if I don't know the answer to this because so let's talk this through. It wouldn't be Game of Thrones because the last season basically ruined it. I think, yeah, it wouldn't be that. Oh man,
What's stalling?
Super. Definitely not Turn. Is it Turn, Jeff? No.
No, but I applaud that answer.
I don't know. Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, that's good. That's close enough. It's Parks and Rec, The Office, one of those two probably.
Yep. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. I will have you know that Chuck and Jeff, I've roomed next to them before, like on an international competition, and we're across the hall all the time. These guys know how to read a book. They're academics, and they like leisure reading. Jeff, do you want to hang out and play cards? No, I'm reading. Okay, you nerd. Fine. I'm gonna have Chuck go first. Chuck, what is Jeff's favorite book?
Oh my God. What is Jeff's favorite book?
We'll go, you know what? We'll go genre because I feel like this is
no, I think okay. Well, genre, okay, maybe I guess genre, I'd probably have to go like sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah. Okay. Jeff, Chuck's favorite book / genre.
Okay.
Tough when he brings 15 to camp.
Yeah. So two. I have 2 conflicting things going on. What about like what genre of book am I most likely to catch Chuck reading? Biography.
Did you say biography?
Yeah, I mean you're always reading. Well, historical nonfiction is the genre that Chuck is most likely to be reading. What does he actually enjoy most? Any book with words in it.
I feel exposed, called out. Yes, that's your favorite author, French. Frenchie, you don't get to comment until you come on the show, man. Denied.
I feel like I can't put your comments on there anymore. Frenchie, my hands are tied.
I mean, you can put comments on, but
all right, it is 2-2. It is 2-2. Here we go. This is a big one, all right? Bunch of nerds over here reading all your books, making me feel stupid. All right, favorite pizza topping. How about that? Jeff, Chuck's favorite pizza topping.
Unlike me, which has a very clear, I have a very clear favorite topping. I feel like Charles, because I've been there, and it's the last day of camp. It's pizza day. Lori's got the 5 different pizzas out, and Chuck goes up and he goes, "Oh, I'll have this everything, and I'll have one of the ones with meat, and one of the cheese, please, too." I feel like I'm a little behind the 8 ball on choosing an actual favorite topping. I'm going to say you're an everything kind of guy. You don't discriminate when it comes to pizza toppings.
I mean, Italian sausage is by far my favorite topping.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Chuck, Jeff's favorite pizza topping.
Well, I mean, cheese obviously is his favorite, but I think it's pepperoni. No,
it's cheese. If it's cheese pizza or pepperoni, I'm gonna probably take cheese.
Okay. Well, okay.
Well,
I didn't get clarified.
All right. So here we go.
I know it just say cheese straight up. I had an unfair advantage there though because I could eliminate like 80% of pizza toppings.
It's very true. That's very true. Okay.
Just drink some of my noon.
Chuck, when is Jeff's birthday?
Wow. Called out.
Well,
I know when Jeff's anniversary with his girlfriend is. It's May 5th.
Okay, well, that's not his birthday or his anniversary.
One day. Jeff's birthday is May 12th.
Ooh, surprisingly close. You got the number and you were one off on the month.
April.
Okay.
All right, you lose. Stop. It's June 12th.
Not bad. Not bad.
Still wrong. Still wrong. Jeff, when is Chuck's birthday? Or his anniversary date for his girlfriend. Either one will do, apparently.
Chuck's birthday. See, and you got closer than I think I'm gonna get with you. Let's see. You are I know you're about like 10 months younger than me. We do briefly share the same amount. Our age is usually the same. So I'm going to say your birthday's coming up soon. Like
March 14th.
Wrong way.
March 8th. March 7th.
There we go. God, no one knows my birthday. So I won't be expecting.
Well, when you have March birthdays, we rarely get the Lori B special treatment.
We never get it. We never get it. And this year we even had it, but we were in the UK.
Yep.
I feel like
yeah. Well, the birthday. Okay, so this is the final question. The score is still tied 2-2. It's gone a little downhill. I think you guys need a little roommate therapy right now. All right, here we go. Final question. What is Jeff's middle name?
Powell.
What is Chuck's middle name?
Nelson. Come on, people.
Give us a hard one.
Fast food restaurant. Favorite fast food restaurant?
Oh,
Jeff. Chuck's favorite fast food restaurant.
Not P. Terry's.
Definitely not P. Terry's. Definitely.
Yeah,
Hot take.
On Captain's Chat, P. Terry's is overrated.
No, you're not going to come in here and scream that garbage.
I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to throw out a Taco Bell.
Yeah, I think so. If I had to really sit down and think about my favorite, it's probably Taco Bell because it's probably the most consistent performer across the board. Like no matter where you
go. Yeah.
I think I would go with Taco Bell. Yeah, I think that's
all right. Chuck.
Jeff's. Man,
you've got a lot of them.
I know this is hard. Yeah, as easy as my other one was, this one is much more difficult for me. Hope you're not listening. Amy Claire. Mandy, you know our security numbers probably. That doesn't even count.
You know my KTN number.
You know what's on my birth certificate probably. Let's see here. I will go with. Oh man, oh god, it's so hard. I'm gonna go with Taco. No, he doesn't like. Yes, I'm gonna go with Taco Bell also.
Taco Bell is an acceptable answer. I would say it's 1A, 1B, Taco Bell, Chick-fil-A.
We are gonna go with the tie here. We're gonna go with the tie.
Yeah. It's not.
No one wins.
Everybody wins. Everyone wins. It's a soccer game.
What's funny is you could always frame a tie as no one wins, but people always say, "Oh, everybody wins." It's like you could frame that the other way. I like to talk about these things.
Well, I feel like any place that has good mac and cheese, Mason says that's also true.
Yeah, but fast food mac and cheese, like which?
Oh, Chick-fil-A's mac and cheese is.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Well, now it is an interesting question because the amount of time that Chuck and I have spent together is more than almost anyone outside of my family and girlfriend. But we never eat fast food together.
We we live in like a bubble normally when we are living together. Like it's not real life. It's lakeshore life. It's just not real.
In foreign country life.
Or it's either lakeshore or hopping on a plane and going to a foreign country. It's very bizarre.
Jeff and I did order Pizza Hut one time in Paraguay, and I can confirm to you all it's pretty good.
It is. Thank you, Josh Wheeler.
Yeah, Josh Wheeler was our translator for that. I could have managed, but it was I wanted to make sure we got the order. We got stuffed crust. Paraguay has stuffed crust pizza.
That's all they had, I think. I don't think we had an option. It was just you get stuff.
Yeah, there's stuff in the crust. Yeah, another option. All right, so I think let's wrap it up here with. We normally do rapid fire wrap up, but I think that was the rapid fire wrap up for today because I want to ask you guys a question. There is a new documentary coming out on Netflix that's pretty cool. What are you guys' thoughts on Rising Phoenix coming out? Are you excited for it? What are your expectations for it? I know there's not a U.S. rugby player on it. It's Riley Batt, but I mean, obviously, it's really cool to see him in that for the trailer. I just watched the trailer yesterday, and kind of got me fired up quite a bit. But what are your thoughts? Jeff, go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna go first because I feel like Chuck will talk for about an hour about this because this is right up his alley. So I love it. One of my biggest life pet peeves being in the parasport world is when I hear a Paralympian refer to themselves as an Olympian because they don't think people take Paralympians seriously enough.
Drives me nuts.
So anything that specifically highlights the distinct differences between the Paralympics and the Olympics, I am all for. And I'll let you say everything else you want to say now, Chuck.
I don't have that much to say. There's only been a trailer. So I'm incredibly excited for it. I think any chance that we get Paralympic sport really pushed into mainstream media and really, it looks beautiful, right? The film looks incredible. Like they did an amazing job shooting it. I know that all the people at the IPC have worked so hard on it. They partnered with a really great organization to make it. It looks incredible. And to tell the story of the Paralympics from so many different lenses, so many different angles, some of the greatest athletes of all, in my opinion, some of the greatest athletes of all time, period, able-bodied or disabled, are in this film. It's really going to be an amazing film. I can't wait to see it, and I hope that people really watch. And again, as I said before, when we were when our gold medal game was put on NBC, talk about this, right? That's what creates more desire and interest from the broader sort of media communities, is when we watch it and we talk about it and say, this was amazing. This was amazing. Telling your friends, talking about how great it is. That's what really shows people this desire is out there. There's an appeal and interest for it because I know it exists. We just have to demonstrate in some way. And in that way right now, it's mostly on social media.
Yep. Share. Please share. I know that's for another day, but yes, Kelly, absolutely. Paralympics and Special Olympics.
Kelly Melton on to talk about it. Have Kelly Melton on. Why doesn't Kelly Melton come on?
We are going to have Kelly better be on. We're going to have a Rugby Wives takeover. It's going to be a nighttime because there's going to be wine involved. Rugby Wives takeover. So Monica's going to be on for sure. And then probably Kelly Melton. I might get Denise Cohn to come on.
Yeah.
See what happens there. There'll be a swear jar involved. Already warned her.
The mute button.
Yeah.
Be Denise.
Kelly, get your wine ready. Put Papa to bed.
I would like to have two streams. I would like to have the stream up of the Rugby Wives and then the stream up of the corresponding rugby players just to watch reactions.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of call outs. There's going to be a lot of listen. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. On second thought, I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're going to have the Rugby Wives on. That sounds like a terrible idea. Sorry. No. Guys, thanks for being on. I think you're spot on. Share this in our community. We need to share this. And if we can all sit through the Tiger King, I think we can sit through Rising Phoenix and I would think be inspired by what's going to be on there. So I'm super excited about it. You guys, if you have any ideas, questions, comments, concerns for the show, things you want to see, people you want to see, definitely want to see Frenchie on. He messaged again, but I'm not going to show his comments anymore until he comes on. Just not.
You can't reward bad behavior. You cannot reward bad behavior.
Exactly. Check out usawr.org for more information about USAWR. And then Jeff is Jeff P. Butler, at Jeff P. Butler for Instagram, at Chuck Aoki for Instagram, over on the Twitter, Aoki5Chuck, and at Jeff P. Butler. Look at that uniform. I like it. Awesome.
Someone already had at Chuck Aoki. It's not my fault.
Yep. Chuck. All right. And hey, thank you, Vesco Wheelchairs, for all your support. Really appreciate it.
Shout out to Melrose. There we go.
Tim Melrose, who Chuck and I are always Team Melrose.
Awesome. And thank you all, I should say, for all the support during giving games. We really appreciate it. We raised a good amount of money. Very excited about that. So yeah, thank you all so much for the support you had in that as well.
Yeah, we're gonna buy this really sweet hot tub for Lakeshore. It's gonna be awesome.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Later, guys.
See you.